"Doctor, I did everything right. Why me?" That was a 67-year-old woman. Careful diet, no smoking, daily walks, but every day she trusted one thing blindly, the heart healthy label. It was quietly flooding her body with sodium. I'll show you how to decode the label and protect your heart before it's too late. Have you ever done all the right things, eaten your vegetables, walked every day, taken your pills on time, and still felt something's not quite right with your heart? I've seen that look in so many faces. You do your best, but deep inside, there's still a quiet worry. Because here's the truth. After 60, even small habits, ones you barely notice, can quietly weaken the heart. There's research now showing this. Even if you eat well and exercise, just one daily mistake done over and over can still lead to a heart attack. One study from the Journal of the American College of Cardiology found that skipping breakfast alone can raise your risk of dying from heart disease by up to 87%. That's not a headline. That's real life. And I've seen it happen more than I wish I had. But here's the hopeful part. Just one small change, done the right way, can make a powerful difference. Today I want to walk you through it. The 4 quiet mistakes I see most often, and the 4 simple things that help prevent heart attack, stroke, and fatigue after 60. Each one is gentle, realistic, and backed by both science and what I've learned after 30 years working with hearts like yours. So don't skip this. Sometimes one shift in your morning can save your life. You know, a lot of people think skipping breakfast is harmless. Some even think it's smart. They call it discipline or cutting back. But for the heart, it's a quiet kind of stress that adds up every morning. Your heart works through the night without complaint, no noise, no break. And when morning comes, it needs a gentle restart, not a shock to the system. But many people wake up, drink coffee on an empty stomach, or eat something sugary just to hold them over. That coffee pushes up cortisol. The sugar hits fast, then crashes hard. And your heart? It's left to clean up the mess. Imagine trying to drive through a snowy road with no warm-up, no oil, and a full load in the trunk. That's how your heart feels when you skip breakfast. Over time, the signs show up. Lightheadedness when you stand, a fast heartbeat before lunch, that foggy feeling that doesn't go away. Most people think, I'm just getting old, but I've seen it again and again. It's not age, it's the body asking for support and not getting it. A study from the Journal of the American College of Cardiology said it clearly. People who skip breakfast regularly have an 87% higher risk of dying from heart disease. I had a 68-year-old man come to see me. Smart, careful with his diet, but for years he drank canned coffee in the morning, nothing else. He got used to feeling weak before lunch, felt dizzy walking up the stairs, and thought that was normal. But when we made just one change, a real breakfast with some protein, healthy fat, and fiber from oats or fruit, 2 weeks later, he said, "My chest feels lighter. I don't get that dip anymore." His blood pressure smoothed out, and for the first time in years, he had energy that lasted through the day. You see, sometimes the answer is right there. We've just been told to ignore it. So tomorrow, try this. Make a real breakfast, even if it's small. Boiled eggs, some berries, a handful of oats with chia. Let your heart ease into the day. It's carried you this far. Now it's your turn to care for it.
There's something I've seen more and more in the past 10, maybe 15 years. And it worries me. Not because it's obvious, but because it looks safe. Bright packaging. Big letters that say low fat, cholesterol free, and that little red heart logo right on the box. You've seen it, haven't you? It feels comforting, like someone already made the healthy choice for you. But the truth is, sometimes what we trust too easily can quietly become the thing that harms us. I remember a woman, 67 years old, very careful, very organized. Every meal came from a can or box labeled heart healthy. She avoided fried food, didn't smoke, did yoga twice a week. But her blood pressure kept rising. Her cholesterol crept up. She said, "I don't understand, doctor. I'm doing everything right." So we looked deeper, not at what she avoided, but at what she trusted. Her cereal box, her soup cans, her frozen meals, all healthy on the front. But on the back, sodium, lots of it. Over 3,800 milligrams a day, nearly double what's recommended after 60. Not from table salt, but from healthy processed foods. The American Heart Association says every extra 1,000 milligrams of sodium per day can raise your stroke risk by nearly 20%. And here's the catch. One serving of heart-healthy soup can have up to 900 milligrams of sodium. And we both know, no one eats just one serving. You don't feel sodium. It doesn't hurt or sting, but it thickens your blood, raises pressure quietly, and makes your heart work harder every single day. We made one small shift. She began reading the back, not just the front. If sodium was listed in the first 3 ingredients, it stayed on the shelf. She started cooking again. Simple meals, whole foods, nothing fancy. 2 months later, no meds were changed. Her blood pressure dropped 15 points. And she smiled and said, "Now I know what's good for my heart. Not what they say, but what I choose." That stayed with me, because it's true. The heart doesn't need shiny logos. It needs real care. And sometimes that begins with reading past the label. So the next time something says healthy, pause, turn the box around. Let your eyes protect your heart. Most people think a heart attack always starts with pain, a sharp stab in the chest, or a collapse like in the movies. But in real life, your heart is quieter than that. It whispers first. A little breathlessness on the stairs, a wave of tiredness after lunch, or a heartbeat that feels just a little too fast while resting. And most people brush it off. I didn't sleep well. I'm just getting older. I probably need more coffee. But here's what worries me. These whispers, they often come weeks or months before a real heart attack. The CDC reports that about 50% of people who die from heart attacks had no obvious warning signs. But when we look closer, they did feel something. They just didn't recognize it. Unusual fatigue, dizziness while sitting, a racing heart while doing nothing at all. And for older women especially, the signs are even more hidden. The American Heart Association says 1 in 3 heart attacks in adults over 60 happens without the classic chest pain. In women, these silent heart attacks are even more common. I once treated a 71-year-old man. Healthy weight, no smoking, walked daily. He said, "I just feel a little drained lately, probably stress." But his EKG told a different story. His heart wasn't getting enough blood. We caught it just in time. That's the part that stays with me. Because if he'd ignored it one more month, he might not be here today. You see, the heart doesn't scream. It only whispers. And if we ignore the whispers, the next sound we hear might be a siren. So, if lately you felt tired in a way that's not normal for you, or your heart skips or speeds up while you rest, don't explain it away. Don't wait. Your body has always found a way to tell you when something is wrong. You just have to be willing to listen. There's something that surprises a lot of people when I tell them, especially those who are already trying their best. They say, "But I exercise every morning, doctor." And I believe them. A short walk, some yoga, maybe 20 or even 45 minutes of movement. But then, they sit. For hours. Breakfast on the couch, TV in the afternoon, a few hours reading or at the computer. And before they know it, they've been sitting still for 6, 7, even 10 hours a day. And here's the part that feels unfair. Even if you do exercise, sitting too long still puts your heart at risk. One large study found that people who sit more than 6 hours a day have a 64% higher risk of heart problems, and that risk doesn't go away just because you walked in the morning. You see, the body was never designed to stay still for that long. Not after 60. Not ever. When you sit too long, your blood flow slows. Fat builds up in the bloodstream, and enzymes that normally protect your vessels, they shut off like a light switch.
I remember a patient, 69 years old. He told me proudly, "I walk 5,000 steps every morning, without fail." But when we looked at his activity tracker, from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., barely a few hundred steps. His triglycerides were high, his blood pressure spiked in the afternoon. He felt exhausted by lunch. So we didn't change his exercise routine. We added something even smaller, a timer. Every hour he stood up for just 2 minutes, sometimes just walked to the mailbox, other times stretched by the kitchen sink. 3 weeks later, his blood pressure evened out. His blood fat levels improved. And he told me, "I don't feel sluggish anymore. My mind's clearer." Movement isn't just about intensity. It's about rhythm. A gentle, steady reminder to your heart that you're still here, still living. So if you've done your walk this morning, good. But don't stop there. Stand up once an hour. Move for 2 minutes. Stretch, sway, take a few steps. Your heart doesn't need a gym. It just needs you, not to forget it during the still hours.
The heart isn't just a muscle, it's a rhythm. It keeps going whether you notice it or not. But it does better, much better, when you move in rhythm with it. And I don't mean running or pushing yourself till you sweat. That's not what the heart after 60 needs. What it needs is gentle movement, done every day. Like a quiet conversation, not a battle. The American Heart Association recommends just 150 minutes of moderate movement per week, about 22 minutes a day. That's all it takes to lower your risk of dying from heart-related illness by up to 31%. And for older adults, that number might even be higher. Because daily movement does more than keep you fit. It keeps your blood flowing smoothly. It helps clean out what doesn't belong. It lowers insulin resistance. And it helps your vessels stay flexible. But most importantly, it reminds your heart that it's not alone. I had a patient once, 66 years old. He just recovered from a mild heart attack. He was scared. He asked me, "If I move too much, will it happen again?" And I told him, "Start small. Let your heart know you're still here, still alive." So he began with 10 minutes, walking slowly around his house every morning, a few stretches in the afternoon, standing up a few extra times before bed. 3 months later, his resting heart rate dropped from 86 to 68. His blood pressure was stable, and his face looked like someone who had gotten his life back. You see, movement doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be present. So today, don't think workout. Think wake up. For your blood, for your breath, for your spirit. You can begin now. No plan needed. Just stand. Let your body remember it was made to move.
People often say,
You are what you eat. But after 60, it's more accurate to say your heart becomes what you eat. Because every bite, every meal, either calms the heart or puts quiet pressure on it. Most people think eating healthy means avoiding fat or cutting calories or buying expensive organic products. But your heart isn't looking for trends, it's looking for nourishment. What truly helps? Foods that reduce inflammation, because inflammation is where heart attacks often begin, in silence, in the lining of your blood vessels. The research is clear. A study in the journal Circulation found that older adults who followed a Mediterranean-style diet, rich in antioxidants and healthy fats, had a 30% lower risk of heart problems compared to those eating a Western-style diet. And that doesn't mean you need to move to Greece. It means more leafy greens, more berries, more salmon, more oats and olive oil. Less processed meat, less white bread, less canned sauces and salty snacks. I remember a 66-year-old woman I worked with. She ate on time, never skipped meals, but her plate, mostly white starch, red meat, and convenience foods. We didn't overhaul everything. We started with one meal a week. Red meat became grilled salmon. White bread became oats. Canned soup became steamed veggies with garlic and olive oil. 2 months later, her total cholesterol dropped by 22 points. But more than the numbers, she said this, "Doctor, I don't feel heavy anymore." She didn't mean weight. She meant the tightness in her chest each morning. Gone. You see, eating right doesn't mean punishment. It's not about suffering through bland food. It's about asking, will my heart thank me for this? So tonight, when you sit down for dinner, ask yourself gently, is this food going to help my heart repair, or is it going to make it work harder? And if you're not sure where to start, just start with color. More greens, more natural reds, blues, and purples. Let your plate remind your body that you still care. If movement is how your heart stays strong during the day, then sleep is how it heals at night. But most people I meet over 60 don't sleep well, and they've come to accept it. They say, I just don't need as much sleep anymore, or it's normal to wake up every few hours at my age. But that's not what your heart thinks. To your heart, sleep isn't optional. It's when the repairs happen, when inflammation quiets down, when blood pressure naturally lowers, when the rhythm resets. Sleep is when your heart finally gets to rest. Research from the European Heart Journal with over 450,000 adults found that sleeping less than 6 hours a night raises your risk of heart attack and stroke by 20 to 30%. But here's something just as important. Sleeping too much, over 9 hours, can also raise your risk. Because it's often not real rest. It's a sign of poor sleep quality, depression, or even hidden heart rhythm problems. I had a 70-year-old man, quiet, gentle. He told me I sleep 7 hours every night. But something didn't feel right. So we used a simple sleep tracker. And the truth came out. Out of 7 hours, he only had 40 minutes of deep sleep. The rest was shallow, restless, never quite enough. We didn't give him pills, we gave him habits. We turned off his phone 30 minutes before bed, dimmed the lights after dinner, kept the same bedtime every night, even on weekends. 2 weeks later, his deep sleep doubled, his morning blood pressure dropped by nearly 10 points, and he said something that stayed with me. I don't open my eyes feeling tired anymore. You see, good sleep doesn't just happen, it's something we prepare for, like welcoming a guest, like dimming the lights before a performance. So tonight, Just try something simple. Turn off screens early. Keep your bedroom cool and dark. Go to bed at the same time you did last night. You don't need more sleep. You need better sleep. Because every heartbeat tomorrow depends on how well your heart rests tonight. There's one more thing, something that almost no one talks about, but I've seen it wear down the heart, quietly, over time. Stress. Not the kind that comes and goes, but the kind you carry all day. The kind you've learned to live with, even when it's weighing you down. When stress becomes constant, your body goes into a silent alarm. Cortisol stays high, your heart beats faster, blood pressure rises, and your vessels tighten, little by little. Not for a day, but for weeks, months, even years. The journal Circulation published a study showing that high stress levels can increase the risk of heart attack and stroke by up to 27 and 30% in people over 60. That's not just emotion, that's biology. I remember a patient, widowed, living in the Midwest. Her heart rhythm would spike every afternoon. She had slightly high blood pressure at night, and she carried a tightness in her chest with no clear cause. She ate well, she didn't smoke, she took her meds, but what she didn't do was pause. We didn't give her more medicine, we gave her space. 5 minutes of deep breathing in the morning, a slow, quiet walk in the afternoon, no phone, no schedule, and every night she wrote down 3 things she was still thankful for. Just 2 weeks later, her blood pressure became stable, her heart rate slowed, and her voice, it sounded softer, more grounded. She told me, "It's the first time I've heard silence in my body in years." You can eat well, move often, sleep enough, but if you carry stress from sunrise to sunset, your heart is still fighting a hidden battle every single day. And here's the hardest part. No one sees it. No one hears it. Only you do. So today, have you taken 1 minute, just one, to breathe deeply and slowly? You don't have to solve everything. You just have to give your heart a little room to breathe. Not tomorrow, not next month, just now. You see, taking care of your heart after 60 doesn't mean changing everything. It just means noticing the little things, the quiet choices, the everyday moments you still have power over. A real breakfast, a gentle walk, one deep breath, turning the lights off a little earlier, choosing salmon instead of sausage, listening when your body whispers. These small shifts aren't just about survival, they're about thriving, quietly, clearly, with a heart that isn't always fighting to keep up, but finally allowed to rest, to beat, to breathe. You've carried that heart your whole life, through joy, through stress, through all the things you've never even said out loud. Maybe today, it's time you carry it a little more gently. And if something in this video helped you pause, helped you see something in a new way, please share it with someone you love. You never know. One small change might save their life too. And if you'd like to keep walking this path with me, slowly, simply, side by side, click subscribe, leave a like, or ask your questions below. I read everyone, and I'll be here, with you, with this heart, until the very last beat.